All right, and we are live. Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Fights Unwrapped. To the right of me is my co-host, Mr. Alec Carr, fresh with the new haircut. Alec Carr, if you want to go and plug anything in, this is your time to do so.
Yeah, I got a nice trim and trimmed up my beard into a goatee. Thought I'd try something new. You guys can, as always, find me at my Twitter account at AlecTDCar. You, like I say every week, all my personal views on sports, a lot of Philadelphia stuff, but on sports in general. Uh, some of them are kind of out there, so please, if you disagree with me, if you want to yell at me, or if you want to tell me I'm stupid, please do it. I like debating. I like arguing back and forth. I like trying to prove that I'm right. And then you can also find us at Fourth and 26 Sports. It's a lot of Philadelphia sports, a lot of Philadelphia headlines and sports headlines in general coming out of that Twitter account. A lot of Eagle stuff right now, with their signings, if you want to call them that. Uh, um, then, hopefully, one of these days, I'll be hopping back onto Hoops Unwrapped, joining in conversations about basketball. And as always, you can find us all at Unwrapped Sports, at Unwrapped Sports Network. Please follow it. Please like it. Please everything it, because there's a lot of good sports content from all over the country. If you want to get Chicago Bears news from a Chicago Bears person, Unwrapped Sports Network is your place, because we got it. If you want Philadelphia news from a Philadelphia person, we got it. So please like and follow us there as well.
All right, awesome. So before we get into our headlines, which we have a few headlines, not too many this time because we're going to be focusing mostly on UFC 260's main card. We'll talk about our sponsors real quick. So I can't wait to see Carlos Condit get back in the octagon, but he is always a proponent of RxHemp.com. He is always pushing and talking about the CBD products that we at USN, we have our promo code RxHemp-USN. You get 10% off your entire order if you register today, and they have icy hot creams for everyone who is needing for recovery or for injury purposes or still is training and all that. So please go and find rxhemp.com and use the promo code rxhemp-usn for your products today. And we just have a comment real quick. See, hello Unwrapped Sports Network. Look at that. Look at the love we have there. So there you go. Okay, and then we have one more sponsor, which is mybookie.ag, which is basically, I'll be betting on this card for sure. I know Alec Carr is not much of a betting man, but I am for sure. And then we use our promo code USN100 to get a 100% sign up bonus. Double up your first deposit up to $1,000, people. If you have that lying around and if you want to go and start betting, you can visit mybookie.ag today. So real quickly, the sponsors, just because I really wanted to get into our headlines for today. The first one we're going to talk about is something surprising. Surprise, surprise, Chimaev is coming back since he just talked about retiring like not too long ago, probably like a month ago, right? And then now he's saying he's going to be coming back. And so basically, I'll give you guys the context for this. So Chimaev, he was pretty much a really hot prospect in the UFC, and then all of a sudden COVID hit him, and it's been really affecting his health to the point where they even say that they had to push his recovery time back till June, which we still don't know when he's going to be coming back. We just know that he's not retiring just yet. So, I mean, Alec Carr, you're a huge fan of Chimaev, and so for you, I know when I released this headline onto the Fights Unwrapped chat, you were saying you were really confused, and I don't blame you one bit, just because like he just said he was going to retire, and now he's saying he's coming back. So, what are your thoughts on Chimaev saying that he wants to come back?
First of all, I am excited. I mean, this guy, if he's even 75% of what he was, is an absolute phenom and is an incredible watch every time he's on a card. He's a mauler. He brings you down, drags you down, beats the shit out of you on the ground.
Mhm.
Or he's got one punch knockout power as well, so he can do that. Um, it's a little concerning because the reason he had retired before was, or said he retired, was issues due to COVID. His lung capacity was not getting back to the level that it used to be. He couldn't even get through a training session without getting lightheaded and his breathing going out all out of sorts. Even to the point where there were articles where he said, or his trainer said, he couldn't even walk upstairs some days without getting winded.
Yeah. Yeah.
With I sometimes can't walk upstairs without getting winded, but that's because I'm not a UFC athlete. I just I just hope, because it sounds like I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But the Chechen leader, whatever you want to call him, contacted him,
Mhm.
and it seems like there's a little bit of pressure. And if you know anything about the Chechen history, when you get pressure from the leader slash dictator slash emperor, whatever it is, um, you probably want to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Um, you don't want to disagree with that. So I hope he's not getting pressured. I hope he feels comfortable. I hope he's going to come back at 100% healthy. I hope there's no COVID issues, no lung capacity issues. Because those are things that could really, I mean, we're talking extreme, he could die in the ring, in
Yeah.
the octagon.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think it would come to that. I don't think if it was that serious, he would even think about coming back. But I mean, this is something that could be very, very, very bad for him if he's not having doctors saying you are good to go. That being said, though, I am super excited at the prospect of him coming back. I mean, this is a guy that could dominate at two different divisions at middleweight and welterweight. This is a guy that could compete with the champions at that level if he's 100%. It
Mhm.
looks like he's, in my eyes, his skill set is, if it's as good as it's been, he's the only one that can compete with Izzy and the only one that can compete with Usman. So we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see how this goes and what allies. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of weeks we get another tweet from him saying, just kidding, guys, I retired.
Yeah, I hear
um,
you.
how do you feel about it? I know it is concerning, but what do you feel about it?
It is no, it is concerning for me just because I'm saying like I'm more confused probably than you are just because when I got the headline I'm like okay so the first headline of you retiring Dana was saying that he probably just said it because out of emotion like out of the fact that he was really like he was struggling and he was going through all the motions of COVID and how that's affecting his body so I just remember reading upon it and then Dana saying that it might be the reason why he said he retired in the first place. And he's saying he's never going to retire. He just said it because of the fact that he was going through all the motions and stuff like that. And it makes me
All right, so it looks like Monique is frozen, at least on my end. I don't know if she can hear me. So we'll give her a second, see if she comes back. right. Monique is
Okay.
back.
I'm back. Sorry.
I'm glad I was just
Internet.
about to end the broadcast. So I hope those viewers come back because we were actually getting up there. But Monique
Yeah.
is back.
I,
Um,
yeah.
so now you can give us your full opinion on Chimaev. Chimaev.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me? Okay, right now.
I can. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Perfect. So I think that he was never going to actually retire. That's my full and honest opinion. I just think that in that moment he was going through all the heartache and the struggles and like all the motions of everything, and that's the reason why he decided to put that announcement out there and retire at that moment. But other than that, I think I personally am excited to see him come back because I personally thought that he was not going to retire, so this was actually a pretty exciting news to come back to. But we'll see what happens because we don't even actually know a date like when he's going to come back. Like they say maybe June per se. So we'll see what happens with that. That's my honest opinion when it comes to Chimaev. But I'm excited to see him come back. I'm excited to see that he changed his mind, and we'll see what happens when it comes to him. Hopefully, he doesn't change his mind again, and it depends on his health. At the end of the day, it all depends on his health. If he's 100%, like Alec said. So let's see. Let's move on to our next headline, which is Chandler versus Oliveira. Oh gosh, finally. This has been like months in the make. It feels like months in the making, probably like weeks to a month in the making. That Khabib, my favorite UFC fighter of all time, has finally relinquished his belt. He has vacated the title. He's officially retired. He, I, we were right about this, Alec Carr. We were totally like, he's not gonna fight again. We were totally like right about him saying that he's stubbornly going to stay at 29-0, and rightfully so. So here it is, and now we have two of the baddest men in the lightweight division fighting for the belt. Now, I will say this: a lot of people are saying, "Well, what about Dustin Poirier? He just won against Conor McGregor." Now, people are shaking their heads. People are saying he wants that trilogy fight. He prefers the money fight. People are saying that Michael Chandler, like, why are you getting the title shot? You just beat one person in the top 10 or something like that in the division. So, Alec Carr, what do you think about this matchup? I know I'm pretty excited about it just because Oliveira, like, it's been a long time coming for him, and he's like on an 8-fight win streak as well. So, what do you think about this matchup?
I, I think it's absolutely a perfect matchup. Michael Chandler in his debut came out and destroyed Dan Hooker, absolutely annihilated him. We all know if you've listened to this stream or seen any of my posts, you know I'm a Michael Chandler fan, which is rare because he's coming from an outside organization. And I usually think those guys are a little bit less talented than the rest of the UFC, but I think Michael Chandler is kind of the exception to the rule. Um, I think it's a perfect matchup. What are you gonna do? Give Gaethje another shot? I do Gaethje versus Poirier again. I mean, fine, maybe. I know that doesn't excite me. I'm not pumped for that fight. Um, these are the two guys who I think are the most talented guys in the division with Khabib out. I think they have the most to show and the most to prove. I think it's the best matchup in the division. Both sides have, we know, Duprox is probably the best active Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist in all of the UFC right now. And then we got Michael Chandler on the other side who proved he's got stand-up and also proved he didn't prove it in his UFC debut, but he's proved over and over and over again he has elite level wrestling when he needs it. So we got a wrestler and a striker versus a Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist who is also an incredible striker as well.
Yeah.
I see this not going to the ground. I see this ending up being a stand-up fight because neither guy wants to deal with the other guy on top. Um, and I think it's going to be an absolute war. I think Dana and the matchup, people at the UFC absolutely knocked this one out of the park. I don't think there's any other fight to make. Conor just lost to Poirier. I mean, what are you going to do? Conor versus Poirier 3 for the title in 4 months from now? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to do Justin Gaethje versus Poirier. Again, you could really make an argument for that those guys deserve it. And I wouldn't disagree with you. I would never disagree with that argument. That those guys have been in the UFC longer than Michael Chandler. Those guys are your top two contenders. I just know what I've seen from Poirier and Justin Gaethje. I don't think they can beat either one of those guys. So good job on the UFC. Good job staying away. I'm super pumped for this. I think not until May. So
yeah,
we got some time, unfortunately, but it's gonna be a great fight.
yeah, we have time. It's I think May 15th is UFC 262, so that'll be the time. That's the day after my birthday, so that's a great birthday gift for me. I know, to watch these two fight for the title. I'm just glad that this whole like lightweight division is finally coming together. Like before, it was know who was fighting for the belt, who was going to be next for it, and now we finally have at least a divisional title matchup, which I'm very excited about. And we'll see what happens with the rest of the division. So, like, what do you think? Who else is left in that division? I mean, Beneil Dariush is facing Tony Ferguson. I know that for sure. Justin Gaethje, like, who is he going to be facing? That's the asterisk right there. Like, he's the only one right now that's a question mark.
I think you have Gaethje fight RDA.
Okay, I'm down for that.
and Poirier. Listen, Dustin. I love him. We all love Dustin. He's great. He seems like a great guy. He does a lot of work outside of the UFC, supporting youth foundations. His youth foundation. He's the hot sauce king of the UFC as well.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's out there. It looks like right now he's out there to make money. It doesn't look like he. And I get in arguments all the time with people that not every fighter wants to be champ. Not every fighter gets in the game and stays in the game to be champ. I mean, look at the Diaz brothers. Look at, you could match it all, even though I know it's fighting for the championship again. But, these are guys that really care more about the money, care more about their stuff outside the octagon and supporting their families. And it appears that Dustin's that guy. I have a problem with it because if you're in a sport, you should try to achieve the absolute greatness. That's just my opinion, but it doesn't seem that's what he cares about anymore. So I don't think we're going to see much of Dustin anytime soon.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that for now, and then we'll go on to our UFC 260 fight preview. If I can pull up the screen real quick because of my Wi-Fi issues, but that's okay. Let's see if this will work. We are sharing the screen. Maybe. Okay, that doesn't matter. We'll talk as we see them. So, first fight we have is a lightweight fight between Jamie Mullarkey versus Kama Worthy. Now, Kama Worthy's coming off one loss. Jamie Mullarkey's coming off of 2 losses, I believe, in their records, but they're pretty like close in record. 12-4, 16-7. So not too bad for the both of them. I'm excited to see Kama Worthy come back. We were just talking about this before the stream and how we're talking about how we're excited to see him come back. Don't like sleep on Jamie Mullarkey as well, man. He has the power, and I still think that Kama Worthy is probably going to take it. I personally believe in him a lot. I'm a huge fan, so maybe I'm picky with my heart on this one. What do you think, Alec? Who do you think is going to win this fight?
I would agree with you. I think Worthy's a better all-around fighter. His last fight in the UFC against Escobar, I wouldn't really count that against him. He lost in the first round. This guy is just an absolutely skilled fighter. He can take the fight to the ground. He can tap you out, or he can knock you out. He's got both. You're right. Jamie Mullark is no joke. This is a guy that's proven himself to be a good fighter. Um, not a great start to his UFC career with losses to Rydell and Zame, but Brad Rydell's an up and coming superstar, hopeful superstar in the division. So you can't really count that against him. He lost in decision, so he ended up going the distance with them. It's just come on Worthy. It's just again, this is a guy that's not to be discounted because of his first loss in the UFC. This guy could create problems. I know he's a little bit older at the age. I think he's 35, 34. But this is a guy that, could be like Usman, whereas in his early to mid-30s starts to make a run because he does have every aspect to the fight game. So I think we're going to see a submission in the second round.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say probably second round submission. I would love to see a submission. Submissions are my favorite to watch. So Kama Worthy. So we are one and one together. So we are going into this still on the same page. But the next fight, here's my thing. This is going to be what I call my lock bet because I'm going into this whole women's flyweight belt, Jillian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick, thinking that Miranda Maverick might be the underdog. So if she is the underdog, someone please bet on her because she is a beast in the octagon. And Jillian Robertson, no offense to her, just because I usually cheer for my Canadian girls as well, but unfortunately, she just her it's going downhill just because she's been suffering losses left, right, and center. And Miranda Maverick is just she can do it all. She's a PhD I mean, this girl can do it all, and she's so powerful in the octagon. This is her second fight, mind you, in the UFC. Before she was from another promotion, so this is opportunity for her if she wins this fight, which I believe she will, and that's why I'm putting this as my lock bet. So again, if she is the underdog, everyone please put money on Miranda Maverick because she's the next star, in my opinion, in the flyweight division. What do you think, Alec Carr?
I agree 100% with everything you just said. Miranda Maverick is being billed as the next big thing. She got moved up to the main card because of the Volkanovski cancellation. So this is a huge opportunity for her to make a splash in the UFC with a big victory over a known name in Jillian Robertson. Jillian, unfortunately, it looks like is going to go about the route of being an inconsistent fighter. That's what it looks like. Sometimes she shows up, sometimes she doesn't. Whereas Miranda Maverick, I know it's only her second fight, but she is absolutely incredible.
I agree. So that going into this, the next one is exciting. Obviously, we got a bantamweight bout between Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. Just because Sean O'Malley's coming back from an injury, another ankle injury, mind you, and I will pick. I'm always going to pick Sean O'Malley. But at the same time, that ankle is concerning. It's really concerning.
Hey, man, I think your Wi-Fi is starting to cut in and out again.
Let's see.
Are you there? The sound quality is pretty rough.
Okay, give me 1 second. 1 second, let me just get these headphones on.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I can try to talk about it. That's fine. If we didn't catch what Monique said, the next fight coming up is the return of Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. Sugar Sean suffered that ankle injury against the forever hated Chito Marlon Vera. The guy's is a douchebag. Monique and I agree on that 120 million%. Um, but Sugar Sean's back. He seems to be back up into his Sugar Sean antics as well. He's got a pretty good fight coming up here against Thomas Almeida. Monique, it sounds like I can hear you now. What are your thoughts on this fight? Because I have a lot, so I can go second.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I don't. When it comes to Thomas Almeida, I don't sleep on Thomas Almeida. It's just that Sugar Sean O'Malley is such a great striker. He's a great striker. What's called? Let's see. I have some comments. O'Malley said not to bet on him. That's interesting. I wonder why you would say that. But let's see. Just going back to my lock bet, like preview. Okay, so I think that he's just a great striker in general. He's great with his kicks. I mean, if his ankle is not going to be an issue, that's going to be 100% his fight. He's a pressure forward kind of fighter. He is so patient in the octagon. He is a smart fighter. He has fight IQ, unlike one Kevin Holland. So, when we talk about fight IQ, I
I'm
know,
not
right?
ready. I'm
Let's
not
not
ready to
talk
talk
about
about
that
that.
fight. I'm not ready to talk about it either, but I'm just saying, at least Sugar Sean O'Malley has really good fight IQ as well. I mean, if he's 100%, his ankle, sorry, is not going to bother him, then I don't see him losing this fight, personally. What do you think, Alec?
I would agree with you, and we've talked about this countless times about ankle sprains and ankle injuries. The more ankle sprains you have, the more likely you are to sprain your ankle. It's just how it works, and that's what I worry about with Sean O'Malley is that that ankle is going to bother him the rest of his career, and it very well could. You know, I'm trying to look up the don't bet on me because I do remember seeing that, and it looks like it was more for out of fun that
Yeah.
he still owes people thousands of dollars for the loss. Um, but Sugar Sean O'Malley, if he's 100%, is an incredible striker. Super quick, very accurate, very pinpoint. Uses his length to his advantage. Um, and I don't count out Thomas Almeida either because his losses are against the best fighters in the division. I mean, Cody Garbrandt, Jimmy Rivera, Rob Font, and Jonathan Martinez. Those are all legit fights. Um, so I can't count those against Thomas Almeida. What I would say is if Sugar Sean O'Malley is at 100%, he was beating Chito Vera in that first round.
Mm-hmm.
And he will absolutely 100% Sugar Sean O'Malley destroys Thomas Almeida. It won't be really a fair fight. I think if he comes out and he's not worried about his ankle and his ankle is a problem, this I'm gonna say this is gonna be over early second round. I don't know if it's gonna be a KO. It could be early stoppage. It could be TKO, but I think he's gonna come out here with a point to prove that listen, I didn't lose to Cheeto. I got hurt. And I am still one of the best fighters in the division, and I'm coming for the belt. I'm excited. I mean, this division needs a Sugar Sean O'Malley. It needs somebody that gets everybody's
Yeah.
hearts racing. Everybody's either you love him or you hate him, but no matter what, you fucking watch Sugar Sean O'Malley fight.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm the same way. I'm excited for that fight. I mean, like going back to the Cheeto Vera fight, like he was winning against him in those rounds, and it's just an unfortunate thing that happens because like especially because he rolled his ankle the first time around, and this is what happens. Like let's just like how Alec Carr said, like the propensity at which you can roll it again, the likelihood would be so much greater. So I mean, just I'm glad that he's back. I'm really excited for him just because like I really love his fight style. Like it's one of my favorite fight styles to watch. You know, what's called. It reminds me very similar just because he's so lanky and he has that reach advantage and stuff like that. It reminds me a little bit of Wonder Boy, a little bit in that sense, and I absolutely love that kind of fight style. So I'm excited to see that fight style play out.
I was hoping you were going to say that because I was thinking the same thing. He is a lot like Wonder Boy, except he's a lot more aggressive than Wonder Boy.
For sure.
Wonder Boy kind of stays back and waits for his opportunities, where Sugar Sean makes his opportunities. That's the biggest difference. But they do have that same kind of fight stance, even where they're constantly bouncing around. They got their arms down and ready to go. I'm ready. I've been waiting. Yeah, everybody knows who watches us knows I've been waiting for Sugar Sean O'Malley to get back to the octagon.
Yeah, shout outs to Jesse too because I know he's like a huge Sugar Sean fan, so I'm sure he'll be watching as well. So shout outs to Jesse Clark from Unwrapped Sports. I know you're a huge Sugar Sean fan as well, so just to put you out there, and I'm sure you'll be watching the fights. But at the same time, so you have like the similarities between Wonder Boy and Sugar Sean O'Malley. One is like more of a counter striker, and one is more like a pressure forward kind of very aggressive, you know. But they're both very pinpoint, very accurate when it comes to their striking, and that's one of the reasons why I love the both of them. And they use their reach advantages to the fullest advantage in my opinion, and I can't wait to see this fight play out. So I still think that should be the co-main event, but it's not. You know why? The co-main event is we have the chosen one, Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Luque. Now, Alec has a bold prediction. You have a bold prediction in this one saying that you think that we'll call it the upset fight because I don't know if Tyron Woodley is going to be the favorite coming into this personally. So we'll call this the upset fight, Alex upset fight, because you actually think that you'll see the old Tyron Woodley come back, and that's the reason why I'm not picking him to in this fight. I'm picking Vicente Luque just because Vicente Luque has been very, very consistent in my opinion. You know, obviously losing a Wonder Boy is losing a Wonder Boy. I don't fault you for that at all, but at the same time, he's just been so consistent with his work. He's gotten so much better. He looks so much better every single time he fights. And then all of a sudden, you have Tyron Woodley, who hasn't been looking the greatest, but now you're saying that he might, you know, the old Tyron Woodley that came back might come out and emerge. Now, that doesn't mean that he's better than the guys in this division. Now, we were talking about this before the stream started, and how this division, the welterweight division, is just evolved into such a really competitive division. And there's so much competition in the top 10. So for you, do you, even though you think that the old Tyron Woodley might come out in this fight, do you still think he's going to win, Alec?
So I am picking Tyron Woodley. And
Okay.
it's not so much that the old Tyron Woodley will come back. It's more so that Tyron Woodley is what Tyron Woodley has always been. A really good fighter, but not elite. When he was champ, there wasn't a lot, and some people are going to disagree with me on this, but again, that's why I say at me, and please comment on the stream live, or comment, send me, it's right here, Alex TD Carr. The division when he was champ was not all that elite. It just wasn't. And not comparatively to what it is now. There was Kamaru Usman was not at the ranks he is. There was no Gilbert Burns. There was no Colby Covington. There's not even hell. I know he beat Darren Till, but there wasn't Darren Till. There wasn't. These guys just weren't there.
Yes.
And I loved myself watching Tyron Woodley come up. You know, beating Stephen Thompson, beating Damian Maia, beating the guys that he beat. But if we go back at his record and look at it, it's not really super, super duper impressive. It's not like some of those other guys, those all-time great champs that we talk about out there. Like, it's not a John Jones type record. It's not like he went through the division at the division's best. Um, so with that being said, I don't know if Vicente Luque is at that level of these other guys. He's not a Steven. He's not a Wonder Boy. He's not a Gilbert Burns. He's not an Usman. And I think Tyron Woodley will always be able to beat those guys. It's those guys are at the top tier, and then, well, if we're being honest, Usman is at a whole different level than everybody else. And then it's those guys. It's your Colby Covingtons, it's your Jorge Masvidal's, your Wonder Boys, your guys like that. And then there's that second tier, and that's where Tyron Woodley lives. I think he can beat Vicente Luque. I think he will beat Vicente Luque because I think Vicente Luque is that second tier guy. I don't think he's a top tier guy. I just don't. I like watching him fight. He's very entertaining. I don't think he's ever going to be a true contender. And Tyron Woodley will always be able to beat those guys. Always, always, always. So, and he knows what he's fighting for. He's fighting for his job. Let's not cut corners and try to, sugarcoat this. Tyron Woodley's fighting for his job in the UFC right now. If he loses this fight, we're going to start seeing him continue to drop on cards. And let's also not forget, he's not a marketable athlete in the UFC. And Dana White gets rid of you once you don't win and you aren't marketable. So he's got to win this fight. He's absolutely got to win.
He's got to win. I'm just saying, I just think that Vicente Luque, he keeps getting better and better as he fights. So that's why, and it's just for me, consistency means a lot, And I understand where you're coming from, when you're talking about how Tyron Woodley will always be the second tier guys, but it's just the way he's been fighting doesn't seem like he can beat those second tier guys. Just because looking back at his recent fights and stuff like that, he's just been declining. He's been less aggressive. He's been waiting way too long for his opportunities in the octagon, and that's what concerns me about this fight, and that's the reason why I would pick Vicente Luque over him any day, just because basically, again, the way he's fighting does not make me think that he's going to prevail and win this fight. So
I totally understand that, and listen, like I said, I love watching Vicente Luque fight. I tune in every time he's on a card. But if we're being, and you're right, he has been super consistent, but not against the best talent in the division. He lost to Wonder Boy. He lost to Leon Edwards. I know he's beaten Nico Price and Randy Brown, and Mike Perry, but those aren't wins I'm bragging about. But he's done exactly what's been asked of him, is to beat, not only beat, but destroy those guys. Now he was split division with Mike Perry, which speaks volumes, because I don't think Mike Perry is a very good UFC fighter. I think he's on his way out of the promotion. Maybe forcibly, because he's causing all kinds of crazy. He does all kinds of crazy stuff on social media. And anyway, we're not talking about Mike Perry. I just don't see Vicente Luque. His win, I can turn to and go, you know what? That's the guy. That's the guy that's coming up in the division, and that's the guy that's going to dominate. I just running through this. I mean, you beat Nico Price twice. You beat Jalen Turner. Great, awesome. Jalen Turner's an up and comer. He might actually go on a run. But I mean, anytime he's had to fight any of the top tier guys, he loses. So that's why I'm picking. It's not so much Tyron Woodley. It's that Tyron Woodley's the second tier guy. So is Vicente Luque, and I think Tyron Woodley wins this fight.
All right, so we are, let's go 4-1 or something like that going into this main card. But we still have one more fight to talk about. It's the main event. It's the fight that Alec is on the fence about. He's still on the fence about it. It is Stipe Miocic, the champ, versus Francis Ngannou, and pretty much they call it the biggest, baddest rematch for the heavyweight title. for the heavyweight title of the world. So I'm still leaning towards Stipe, man. Stipe is the better fighter overall. He's smart. He's gotten obviously so much better in every single time he fights, and I understand people like being hesitant because it's Francis Ngannou, and like how can you withstand Francis Ngannou's like forward pressure kind of striking? Obviously his punches are like go to sleep. His power is incredible. He probably has the best power in that division. But I still think Stipe he has a chin on him. I think that he knows he's gonna have to move around. He's gonna have to use somewhat of, you know, I don't know. Like he might have to aim for the body shots as well. So I'm not too sure what his plan is gonna be. But I just know that he's the better fighter at the end of the day, and that's the reason why I'm picking Stipe over Francis Ngannou. So, Alec, are you still leaning towards Stipe Miocic, or you're like kind of like 50-50 on both fighters still?
So before I pick, what I will say is I agree with you. Stipe has cemented his spot as the greatest heavyweight or the second greatest heavyweight of all time. You know how I feel about Junior Dos Santos. I think he slightly edges him out, but I wouldn't argue with you that hard against Stipe being the greatest heavyweight of all time. Um, what I would say is exactly what I've been talking about this whole time about this fight with you and in the chat. I think Stipe has to take this to distance. I don't think he has the power to knock out Francis Ngannou. I don't think he has it anymore. Maybe once upon a time he did, but that means you're going 5 rounds with that biggest, baddest heavyweight in the division, the one that can knock you out by grazing your chin, the one that's the absolutely terrifying specimen of a man. Um, that's what scares me about this. Is that Stipe, and I'm sure I might even get this from other people. Stipe last 5 rounds with him the first time, and you're right, he did. But Stipe has been in war since then. He lost to Daniel Cormier, DC in the first fight. Then he won 4 rounds and beat him, and that was an absolute battle. That was a battle that he ended up winning in the later rounds because of body shots. But he was losing before that. And an absolute battle in the third DC fight, which I think we all agree. He won that fight hands down. It wasn't even really that close, but it was a war. It was an absolute war. He's got to be. If Stipe wants to win this fight, he's got to go to the body, and he's got to go to the body early. He's got to hit him with those punches that he's hitting DC with. He's got to attack the legs with leg kicks. And then go upstairs later on in the fight. He's got to treat this like a old school 15-round boxing match. Work your way up, start down at the base of your opponent, and work your way up, and then finally at the end, maybe the last 2 or 3 rounds, go up top and start attacking the head. If he comes out, and I don't think, like you said, he's a really smart fighter. His fighter IQ is probably maybe not the highest now that John Jones is in the division, but the highest in the heavyweight division, maybe of all time. So I know he knows how to win this fight. I know that he's going to have the right plan to win this fight. I think he knows he's got to start down low, work those legs, work that body, and get back up to the head. But Francis Ngannou is just different. He's just a different guy. They talk about a guy that's gotten better and better. The Rosen strike fight, Francis Ngannou scares me as a UFC fighter. The way he beat Rosenstrike is terrifying. Because Rosenstrike is no joke. So I'm picking Stipe. I'm picking him by division just solely on fight IQ alone. But don't be surprised if this fight could end any round. That's what's scary about picking Stipe, is that this fight could literally end any round from first round to last round because of Ngannou's power. And let's not also forget, his cardio is on point. He can last 5 rounds with the best of them. So he could last 5 rounds with a light heavyweight. His cardio is ridiculous, especially for the heavyweight division. Um, so again, that's why I'm scared. I don't want Stipe to also go out like this. I want him to go out with a win. I would love for him to go out beating him, fighting John Jones, retiring. That's what I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
love to see Stipe. And to be honest with you, I know I've been kind of ranting, and I would like your opinion on this. I wouldn't be mad if Stipe retired if he wins this fight and just says, "I'm done. I've been in wars. I'm the greatest heavyweight of all time. I don't need to fight John Jones to prove it.
Yeah.
I'm done. I've beaten everybody. I don't need to beat John Jones."
Mhm. Yeah, no, I
How would you
agree.
feel
I
if
think
he
that he has
retired
nothing
after this
else to
fight?
prove. I would be okay with it. Like I honestly think he doesn't have anything else to prove. Going into this fight, like he literally after this fight, like he just rematched and beat Francis Ngannou again, and he just retires. I mean, like that makes total sense. Like he's beaten a lot of people. If you look at this repertoire, he's beaten some of the baddest men in the heavyweight division, and he's cemented himself, including the wars between him and DC, as the greatest heavyweight of all time. Even though I know how you feel about Junior Dos Santos, just saying, like I don't think he has much to prove after
Yeah,
that.
let's run through it real quick. Let's go back to 2015, right? Um, that was 3 fights before his UFC debut, I think. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, he debuted a lot longer ago than that. But let's just go back to 2015. After the first JDS fight, he lost. He then beats Mark Hunt, Andre Orlovsky, Fabricio Verdum, Alcitar Ibrahim, beats JDS in the first round, Francis Ngannou, loses to DC, then beats DC twice in a row. Now he's got to fight. I mean, if he wins again, there's very little argument. Even if he loses to John Jones, there's very little argument that
Yeah,
he's not the greatest of all time.
yeah, I agree. So I would be surprised if he decides to retire after this. I don't think he will. I think he will want to if he wins, he will want to face John Jones just because it's if you face John Jones and you beat John Jones, like come on. Even though that's a different
Yeah,
story,
there's
like we're
no
not gonna talk
argument.
about it.
There's no argument
Literally
after
not at
that.
all. If you beat
Yeah,
John
if
Jones,
he
yeah,
comes in and he
then you
beats
want to
John
go.
after 4 battles, coming in and fighting the smartest fighter in probably UFC history and beating that, there would be no argument. I mean, there's very little. If he beats Francis Ngannou a second time, I probably wouldn't argue that JDS is better than him anymore. There would be very little argument for me.
Yeah,
Um, just because listen, like I said, Francis Ngannou is a totally different fighter than he was. Um, he's way more skilled, not only in
yeah,
striking, but his ground game has gotten so much better too. That's what's also people are forgetting about that Francis Ngannou has a ground game now. Um, it's just I'm picking Stipe partially with my heart, but also because as we talked about, his fight IQ is he's just a smarter fighter.
he is the smarter fighter. He is the better fighter, in my opinion. Francis Ngannou, I will say this: the come up of Francis Ngannou, because like he used to be just everybody just knew him as the heavy puncher, and then that's it. That's all we knew him, and then his cardio wasn't that great like years ago, and like the way he's been transforming himself, like his body, like we can even like just look at the fact that like years ago his body did not look the same, and now he is a specimen of a man. And his cardio is on point. Like you said, he has a ground game. His striking's always been great. The power's always been there. So he is a terrifying man. And so I'm not surprised if anybody is picking Francis Ngannou to win. And like you said, like this fight could end up in like how when Stipe lost DC, it could end up just like that, but even like faster or even more like just because like it's Francis Ngannou and now the better version of Francis Ngannou is
Yeah,
here.
this fight could literally, not to cut you off, but this fight could literally
Yeah,
end in 15 seconds into the first round.
no
And I'd
joke.
be like, well, that makes sense. It is Francis Ngannou. So he
Yeah,
landed, he landed clean punches in that first round, which was shocking. Because I think even him himself was like, how is this man And Stipe, how is Stipe still standing in front of me? I have landed clean. I have landed my clean uppercut. I mean, that's the punch he's known for, is his uppercut. And he landed
Yeah.
that clean. He landed his hook clean. And his anything he hit Stipe with, he got. Stipe just returned with 3 other strikes, and that's why Stipe ended up winning the fight. But I mean, I wouldn't look for Francis to come out looking for a knockout. I would look for him to looking to score points in striking. So I think we got a war on our hands, and I'm super excited.
I'm excited about it, obviously. And speaking of which, next week, have you seen the card for Darren Till versus Vittori? It's such a great card. Like
It
looking down, you have Yusuf is back.
is.
Then you have yes, he is back. He's facing against Arnold Allen in the co-main event, and then you have Kyle Dawkins, which is obviously the brother to Chris Dawkins, who obviously Philly made guys. So for Alec, that's a huge win. Then you have Stan Alvey coming back against Julian Marquez. So
The
there you
Cuban
go.
missile.
He's back, and then you have Mackenzie Dern coming back against Nina Asteroff. So like this is an amazing card. And then you have Mike Perry, obviously. So you gotta have Mike Perry on the card to make it a card. So just look at that card, Alec card. Imagine this card is gonna be next week as well. So I'm excited to talk about this card as well.
Yeah,
Because
and by
Yusuf
the
coming
way,
back,
Jim Miller's on the prelim of this card. Just want to throw that out there.
Yep.
But yes, I'm super excited to see Sadiq. Sadiq Yusuf back. I love it. I love him. And Darren Till, is got. I love me some Darren Till.
I'm excited. Yorgon de Castro is back. What's called? Norma Dumont. She's huge for me. Impa is back as well. So William Knight is back. He'll be facing against another opponent named Jung Da-eun as well. So it's just a good card. It's a very good card. I'm very excited for next week. So we should be really excited. We are so blessed with this card, and then we have the next card coming up next week. So everybody, this has been a great edition of Fights and Wraps. I'm sorry for the Wi-Fi connections and stuff like that, but we will see you all next week for next week's edition of Fights and Wraps. Bye, people. Have a happy
Bye,
fight week.
everybody.